Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerder Doug.
What's up, my man? What's
Hey,
going on, dude?
for nerds by nerds. Forgot that part. Man, throwing you
You
off.
forget that part?
Yeah. You have to renew your dedication to the call
I
line,
do, I do.
which is our topic for tonight, renewals. Which
Yeah,
is
man.
kind of broad. I've been sort of like, "Ah, wow, how do you approach that one?" I do have a few
I want to
thoughts.
know, why don't we have a renewal domain? What the frig?
Hey, there you go.
There's always been a renewal domain.
Yeah, we could lead off with our question from our stalwart Patreon Zip Warlock, who usually
Well, I want to yell
supplies
at
us with
Wizards of the
questions.
Coast for not having a renewal domain for a
Hey,
while.
everything that you wish was in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons that isn't in an official book is an opportunity to make it ourselves.
That's true. But see, we're in this weird position where we're kind of commentators, but we also make stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then I think we bitch at Wizards of the Coast for not making it, and then we have
I
to go
don't.
and make it.
I don't. I mean, stuff in published books really only matters for Adventurers League and comparing stories with people, right? So, we just use homebrew stuff all the time anyway. It doesn't bother me.
Nah, not at all. But there's like life domain is the closest thing, right?
Yeah,
I might say light domain, but light domain really is about blowing shit up.
yeah.
So that doesn't work very well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, divine domains or any, subclass or anything are really a neat chance to like explore, because we make a lot of subclasses all the time of like the kind of stories you want that character to be, what you want that character to contribute to stories, right? So, a lot of times, like, I don't know if you do, but, when we see things online where people are like, oh, here's this rogue subclass I made up or fighter one, I always look at like, well, what did they, is it just like every feature is just like I'm going to kick even more butt in combat on my own. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, the stories you want to tell are my dude is just awesome at by himself.
So that's got me thinking, right? Because we played in our last game, we had a character that played a cleric of the light,
Mm-hmm.
and Sophie's character was like very goody goody, and redemption and helping people.
A hero.
Yeah, but like it's funny because the light domain cleric really is about just setting things on fire. It should be
Mm-hmm.
the fire domain, really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's all about the sun, and I suppose that it is just a big nuclear explosion happening in space constantly.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, and like all the
I mean,
spells are fire spells.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like if there was a renewal domain or something like that. I mean, like plant growth comes to mind and things like that, where you're like, reincarnation. I guess a druid. Maybe it'd be a druid. Yeah, I guess they already are. That's the thing.
It,
Sometimes you make subclasses. You're like, is this just a cleric that's a druid?
well, nah, yeah, yes and no. Like I definitely feel that. I mean, because also when
It's
I
gonna
was
get
thinking
that
of renewal,
sameness that you dread.
yeah, well, now in fifth edition, because of the way the mechanics work and because there's more variety,
Mhm.
it's less of an issue,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, and
Spores is kind of like a renewal as well, but it's
yeah,
like from the
with a
other
dark
end of
twist.
thing,
Yeah.
a little bit the darker side of it.
Sure, sure. Um,
But what about like I also think about that's a great like topic for a quest, and it comes up all the time. Like when you have to like, and we kind of were talking about this in one of the products we're working on that's super top secret.
shh. Only,
With the
only you
idea,
guys know about it. Only the people
yeah,
here.
with the
Man, now
idea
it's
of
private,
wards,
right?
the idea of wards having to be renewed. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like it's a super new or unique
No.
idea, but that is a great basis for an
Oh
adventure.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that kind of stuff is reminiscent of like, I mean, your classic like Final Fantasy type games, right? Where it's like, you often wonder like, I would first level, like, why am I tasked with this? It's like, well, maybe people don't know where they are, they don't believe they're real. Oh, you were just there at the time, and for whatever reason, it's your destiny. I imagine. To be honest, I imagine that those themes will probably be in Theroslap because in the Magic set, like there's Titans that are chained in the underworld and stuff, and they probably need to be prevented from escaping, which is the keyword mechanic from that set. Uh, so that you might find a lot of cool stuff in there along those lines.
I had to just check the settings because there's like 12 people watching. I'm like, what the? This is really low for us. Someone said something about Critical Role. Is Critical Role doing a thing right now?
Well, they did that narrative telephone thing, and they still do All Work No Play with Liam and
Yeah.
Sam remotely. I don't know. I mean,
I'm just saying, can we get some shares, folks? Some
oh
tweets, something.
yeah,
There ain't
it's
nothing
me.
going on.
Sorry,
Matter of fact, no one's watching. I'm ready to go home.
maybe it's me. Is it me? I'm
Maybe.
sorry.
But they
I'm
don't
not.
know. They don't know until they get here that it's you.
That's
So
true. Yeah. Is it going up and down? They're just
no.
coming and
So
going. Um,
oh no, we're getting some freezing. I think.
for,
No.
really,
Really, we
man.
are JPEGs right now.
Oh,
I don't know if
do
I don't
you?
know if the audio is still going or not because I had the tab muted. But we are JPEGs, and we also got the flashy yellow warning sign.
Oh boy, open widget. Never seen that before.
Yeah, that's weird.
I wonder if there's something I can do.
I don't know.
Do I
I
have a
don't know.
process going? Stories you want that character to be. What you want that character to contribute? No, not a lot of things going. The health looks good in here. Like I don't know if you.
Sounds is going.
Huh.
So, although we might be, but we are JPEGs.
Boy.
Yes, it is frozen for us, for me too, and I'm looking at it. It's Doug's internet. It sucks.
Hey man, I can't help it. I mean, literally, I even tried to get a faster one, and they just don't have it.
They suck. I, from now on, will be handling the streaming.
Well, what will happen when it's me and Nerdarchus Ted?
I might have to come on here when it's you guys, and just run the.
You know, folks, we wear a lot of
production.
hats at Nerdarchy, and technical stuff doesn't fit me very well.
Nah, it's just your internet sucks really bad.
True. Well, hey, we can always just podcast style up. Me and Ted have done it before, thanks to my famously terrible internet here.
Yeah.
If any internet companies out there want to sponsor Nerdarchy, hit us up
and run internet straight to Doug's house.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Give me a modem or something. I don't know, fiber optic. But anyways, well, let's hit up our question from Zip Warlock, and we'll just go from there.
Okay, one thing real quick. I
Sure.
just want you to know that my down speed is 440 and my up speed is 510.
Yeah, that's like hundreds of times what mine is, literally. Because mine's probably like in the single digits. Anyways, Zip Warlock over at Patreon asks, is there a monster that you're tired of fighting? Like when your DM throws it into an encounter, you're like, oh, for God's sakes, bugbears, really?
Do you have a monster like that just like?
I was thinking about that. Not really, because they're all fun and they're all different opportunities to like. In the games I play, I mean, there's rarely like just random mook number one sort of thing. I mean, they always have some kind of personality, so you never know. It's fun. I mean, anything from a kobold to dragons or whatever, I'll take it. I can't really think of anything offhand, to be honest with you, that I've fought like DM throws. The other side of that is, I'm sure you can commiserate with this. I am usually the DM. I mean, like probably like 90% of the time I'm playing D&D, I'm running the game. So
I've been playing in a lot of games lately, but yeah, I must say, like, I guess there's nothing I'm like so old of it. I've been playing with like different people too, so that helps a lot as well, because different GMs use different monsters a lot of times. Everyone, like, we all have our favorites,
Yeah. Hey, here's a question for you. I don't know if people care if this technical. If I close my internet tab with YouTube open, will that make it stop at all?
No, I don't think it will, because it's streaming from OBS.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try that just because. Well, yeah, because it's got the stream view. I'm gonna try that. Sorry, apologize for the technical jargon there, folks, but I'm just gonna close that and maybe the added or the lessened level.
Yeah, worst case scenario, like you said, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of freeing once you get used to it. It's like, hey, nobody can see me, so
yeah,
if you got to scratch your butt or whatever,
Yeah, but then at
Yeah.
that particular instant, it'll begin working again.
Hey, then the video goes viral because Nerder Doug embarrassed himself. So boom, it's a
Yeah.
win-win. Is there any monsters like that for you that you're just kind of like,
I
ah?
don't think so. I don't even feel like in all the years I've played, I don't feel like this again. It's like it's almost like a it's like a rite of passage, right? Like the low levels to fight the giant rats and dire rats and
Mm-hmm.
goblins and kobold.
Absolutely,
Uh,
yeah.
y- I like I get I might be disappointed not to. I'll tell you what, there was when we first started with fifth edition, and Ted threw like 4 orcs at us
Yep. Is that when
and
Mark's character got killed?
yeah, and 4 imps and murdered Mark's character. And like, whoa, they hit a lot harder than we remember.
Yeah, and it's kind of off topic, but it makes me think like, when you're DMing, I know we don't like mathematically balance our encounters and stuff, but like, I don't even do you like put much consideration in like, oh boy, I don't know how many hit points they have, or like, are they getting low? It's like I don't care. I mean, they can fight until they don't want to anymore. Like, does that ever cross your mind?
Nah, not really. It's like
Like you
I
hear
said,
players like, "Oh man, I just took a like, oof, this is dangerous," and you think like, "Ooh, did I miscalculate this?" It's like, whatever, we'll see what happens.
I think I've said that more often than them, and then I'm just like, I guess we'll see what happens.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, do you ever just in your mind you're like, "Ew," but
I
you're like,
do, but
"Well,
it's usually
I'm
not.
kind of curious what will happen."
It's not. It's never been to the response of the players though. It's always been to me seeing how the combat's unfolding
Okay.
and what I'm using, and then going, oh man, well, I guess we'll see. And they figured it out. I also hit I also hit the Scarlet Sisterhood with one of the Yantis. Which one is which Yanti is the one with the snake body?
I think it's an anathema. I don't know. There's so many of them. I'm not sure.
I don't
Obama.
think it's not the anathema, but it was still strong. And I did it as a random encounter, so it
Mm-hmm.
came up random. And like they got the drop on it. So I was like, oh cool. They'll like go around it or
Mm-hmm.
wait. No, no, they attacked it. And then I think they started getting their asses kicked.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is carrying the gnome, and the gnome is just like blasting the shit out of the fireballs.
Oh man. I was just thinking about my own recent game. Again, doesn't have anything to do with Renewal, but so we're playing Ghost of Saltmarsh, and like mild spoilers. They got to the point where they're going on the boat, and they had this elaborate plan, which came out pretty good. There was a series of rolls. They didn't all pass, but for the most part, they did. And it was just this crazy battle on the ship because there's like different levels to it. Like where the I forget what it's called, like the poop deck where the wheel is and all, and then like they had taken a rowboat out to it, so there was waves of guys, all different sorts of guys. I changed up a couple things, and it all came to, and like there was a explosion of brandy barrels and all this stuff. Came down to a slap fight between the party wizard and the NPC one on the deck, and it was like the guy had come up from the deck below, so he's at the top of the stairs, pushed him down, and he died from the fall. And they had no spells or anything. They were just like trying to grapple each other, and like all the other enemies were pretty much defeated. So like the rest of the players were just like, I want to, they're like, just take them out. They wanted to see how it went down. So they were just kind of slapping at each other,
it's
and he ended
very
up
it's
just
very
pushing downstairs.
it's very movie-esque,
Yeah.
where the wizards square off and you're expecting like this big magical battle,
Yeah.
and one of them just slugs the other.
Yeah, it was great. It was like, and they're like, oh, I was like, that's what D&D, that's a memorable thing. I always remember when Theron and Puketa or something, whatever the guy's name is from Saltmarsh, just slapped each other to death.
Yeah, you just saw it not that long ago in the. I made my kids watch Willow.
Okay.
They weren't really a fan, but I like to
Yeah.
torment my children with the things that I loved as a kid. So
Right.
why not?
Hey, I got the chat open on my phone. I'm seeing it's back.
Yeah, it's back. So what did we watch the other day? Actually, my wife had never seen it,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew I saw it when it like came out. We tried to get the kids, and they're like, no. But Last Unicorn.
I never saw it. I'm familiar with it, but I never saw it.
Yeah. I think we watched it on Prime, maybe
Okay.
HBO. I'm not sure, but it's You remember the old Lord of the Rings or animated?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you watch those?
By
Bass
whatever
Rutten.
Baskin or whatever his name is.
Same person.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So, but it's from like '82, so the pacing's a little slower.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
really.
and
That's a
as my
big part
son
of
would
it,
say,
right? Yeah. We just live in a faster paced world in every way, from our D&D games to our movies to just everyday life, right?
yeah, yeah. Um, as my son would say, the graphics on it are terrible.
Yeah. I know. I'm the same way though. Like I have nostalgia, but I've learned like you got to temper that stuff, whether it's like video games or movies, because it's like you don't want to ruin that feeling for yourself. You're like, man, that did suck. So
Yeah, don't go back.
yeah.
Abomination. It was Abomination. Thanks, Seymour Butts.
There's somebody named Seymour Butts. Huh?
Yeah,
What is that
please.
referring to?
There's probably a bunch of them.
Oh.
He
um,
was just lucky enough to get it first.
so did you have any thoughts particular about renewal? It was the topic that you had pitched.
Yeah, so I feel like, you know, not only did it used to be a cleric domain that you could choose, which we might have to remake that as well. I feel like it's kind of close to redemption as well.
Yeah.
So I would look for inspiration from the redemption paladin. But I just also think it's just a really great topic for telling stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great mechanism or trigger. Um, when the players solve whatever it is like, or end the current story arc. That's like a renewal of the game, because
Mm-hmm.
you get that fresh start.
Yeah, that's true. And in the quests themselves, like you were describing earlier, those sorts of things, you're renewing like the land and stuff too. I mean, it would look at the King Arthur myth. I mean, that's all about like renewing the land. They had to find the Grail because it's like the
Yeah.
land is dying and the king was tied to it. Yeah, that is a great topic.
So,
Go ahead.
so I think it's good for inspiration in that sense. Again, whether you're talking about renewing wards to a creature that's trapped, or what about you have a flying city, and the
Oh
magic is
yeah.
failing that keeps it aloft,
Yeah,
right?
something ancient like that where people just take it for granted, and then it's like that. Even the fact that it is starting to fail, like that would be something that like the governments or whatever the analog is would probably then not want everybody to know. Like hey, it'd be like a Krypton sort of. We're just like, look, we can't just tell everybody like, hey, our entire civilization is just gonna fall to the earth and be destroyed unless we do this thing, right?
And I mean, Forgotten Realms, Critical Role, they all have their cities that fell.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing in a game where you do have flying cities, having one that's about to fall would be a great impetus for an adventure,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's time based too. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have to be, the magic is failing because it's old or whatever. It needs to be renewed. It could also be like a saboteur,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
which
Oh,
which we
that's
tried.
cool too.
We did a little bit of that in the Other Skies game,
Mm-hmm.
where you guys caught someone that you thought was either like a industrial espionage, or thought they was trying to sabotage your spiffy ship.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff going on in that game. It was like really packed with just stuff. And I know you. It's like I'm sure there was a lot of elements that you're just like, yeah, I'll just throw this in there, and if they seem like they're really interested, we'll go that way. But you know, it
Oh
wasn't it
yeah,
wasn't like we couldn't go forward without like discovering that guy or whatever. I thought that was cool.
there
Go ahead.
there was definitely a point where I thought you guys were going to completely change the course of what the adventure was.
I just saw
Because
that Stark
I know the
Maximus.
chat, yeah, because so at one point, like the adventure was for you guys to go down to the ground, because Other Skies took place in these 12 floating cities,
Hmm.
and at the very beginning, a 13th had risen and appeared out of nowhere that had supposedly been lost or whatever.
Yeah.
And the idea was you guys would go and investigate on the ground where nobody goes, because it's cursed or evil, or the air is poisoned, whatever the reason was.
Hmm.
But at one point you had convinced everyone to go to the dwarven city that so the dwarves were inspired by Doug's character who talked with like a Russian accent.
Yeah, Raz.
So our dwarves are going to be kind of Russian flavored.
Hmm.
And I thought for a minute you guys were going to embark on some kind of big espionage thing in that city.
Yeah, me too. I
But
was excited. I wrote a really long post about it and everything.
but you guys like dipped in there, talked to a guy or two, and then left.
Yeah, that was a fun game. I liked that character, like Raz Racket. Yeah. I was just catching up with the chat here. For me, when I think renewal, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like renewal of vows and stuff, and that led me to think like, well, what's similar to that? It's like your oath, right? Like your paladin
Yeah.
oath, and in a tangential gentle way. Like recently, I've been doing a lot more reading of just like the player's handbook. Just finding like, wow, this has a lot of cool information in it. But in Xanathar's, there's all those "this is your life" stuff, right? And it's like, whoa, that is such a cool way to like sort of renew your character with a new uh, perspective. And I was thinking like, even if you're not at character creation, you could still use those tables and stuff to come up with like lots of cool things. Even if you're the DM, like you could just be like, well, I have a fighter in my party, so you'll roll, and it's like you can work those things in. But those are really interesting ways to renew thing. And along the same line with the oaths, like rarely hear people talking about that. It's like, oh yeah, the oath of vengeance is cool, or the oath of devotion is cool. It's like those oaths, and they're just like a sort of role playing guide. There's no mechanical thing, but it's like, boy, they're pretty specific. Behavior that you would probably exhibit if you were one of those things. Whether it's like the oath of vengeance that people like. I mean, again, you don't have to, but it's like you show no mercy to like evildoers and stuff. It's like that's just what they do, They execute evildoers. So, you know, like on the one hand, it's like, well, you could be. I mean, that's a pretty powerful role playing thing, right? Like to explore, like, man, you're like even the other, characters might be like, damn. I mean, this guy's just merciless. It's like, hey, I don't have any mercy for my foes. you know, so you could renew your oath in that way if you're a paladin player.
Well,
Look at those tenets.
as soon as you said paladin oaths, like my eyes lit up because that would kind of be cool if you kind of incorporated that into your campaign where they have to renew their oaths. But what if it's not just like renewing your oaths? You have to actually go somewhere
Yeah.
and pledge them again. So it becomes like this mini adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's something that just happens usually in the background. You never have to worry about it. But
It's like Panfire.
What's that?
It's like Panfire. For all you Trekkie nerds. Panfire, that's that thing that happens to Spock every 7 years where he has to go.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He has to go renew he has to mate. Or he goes crazy.
Yeah, I know the feeling. No.
Except it's like every 7 hours, maybe? Days? We'll say days.
Minutes.
Yeah.
No, so what if you set that up in your campaign setting where they had to, whether it's annually, whatever, certain, conjunctures of the sky, but they go to do it, and like you could do a whole adventure around that, because what if something's being set up to try and stop it from happening?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a traitor amongst all the paladins of that particular order, and they've done something to defile the sacred ground where that happens. So it could be almost be like a murder mystery. You can run off of it. The D&D cartoon, they actually had an episode where their magic weapons and their magic items were failing,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to be renewed like every 1,000 years or 5,000 years or something ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's something. I mean, how easy is that to do? For your players, it's like, yeah, they got a couple magic items that they rely on. Boom, you just say like, yeah, you noticed it's been failing or something, and it's like there's a whole quest. They might be like, I want to research why that might be happening. So just depending on however far along you want the timeline of that possible adventure seed to go.
I don't know if that video went up or not, or if it's floating in the ether somewhere. But we talked about that particular episode and the idea that you could easily turn that into an adventure. It'd be a cool way to give your players powerful magic items that they shouldn't really have yet, but they're kind of fading and failing, so they're not at full strength. So in order to get them at full strength, they have to go on a quest. And what what adventure isn't going to do that to go beef up their magic
Oh
item?
yeah, man. Yeah, I love giving people powerful items at low level or getting them. It really opened my eyes. A few months ago, I played a one shot of like Death House with some people from online, and they were like, "Oh, you can have one rare item and one like uncommon item," and we are like second level, I think. She
Oh yeah,
changed it up and stuff. But I was like, wow, that really is neat. I mean, how many times do you want to think like your first level character? It's like, oh, I got this holy relic, that they sent me on this quest. Where it's like, well, that's a good opportunity to do that. And you can have a lot more crazy, encounters and stuff, whether, not even just combat. I mean, just with the, if you have like boots of flying or whatever, it's like, oh, that changes things quite a bit, right? You can do
it
a lot
is.
more. In that Saltmarsh campaign, I just had some random treasure for them, and I was like, I'm going to get a little crazy, and I had like a sentient sword, and I used some of the charts in the book to like, I was like, oh, maybe it's like, whoever has it can like command some ship, somewhere like a boat because they really wanted a boat. So I rolled up like a random ship and made up a little bit of lore for that. But it's like, and they love it. It's like it's always wanting to find the ship, and I love sentient items, so I don't know, it's just kind of fun.
One of my early characters was killed by a sentient sword, so
This
that's
one's chaotic good, so.
Brian Smith, renewal subscriptions. Good idea. We have a patron for that. Dragon Ball Talk, man, is working in the epicenter. I am weird. Well, me and Ted are just down the turnpike from you. So, it's working its way down. We're in South Jersey. It's not as bad as North Jersey, though. That's where all the bad stuff is and always has been.
Oof, boy, I'm not
Thankfully, we
sure.
have Central Jersey as a buffer.
Yeah. Boy, I'm not sure if this is a good thing or bad thing. Crazy Hermit DM says, if you've done live chats long enough, you're used to the technical difficulties. It's like, thanks. It's like everybody
Yeah.
knows Nerdarchy is terrible with or
Nah, I
me,
think they
me.
mean
It's me.
watching in general because
I
everyone
know.
has issues at
I know.
some
I'm
point.
just messing around.
We
Oh,
just
that's a
have more
great
than
question.
usual.
Wow, that's a great question from Crazy Hermit DM again. Whenever you're low on inspiration, is there a movie or TV show you go to for inspiration? You?
I don't say I have a specific per se, but I do a lot of binging on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
and that does definitely give me ideas. I can't watch stuff and not think
Yeah, I know.
games and RPGs and
Mm-hmm.
D&D.
Yeah.
Like it all has its place
I'll tell you
for
what.
me.
Yeah, same thing. I would say I don't like specifically. You're like, oh, I'm going to watch this because I need inspiration. But I will say that I notice a lot of times I get inspired from things that aren't like action movies and stuff, where it's just more like storytelling techniques. And it's like, oh, I like that. I'm going to try to do that, or just like throw some little hook in to sort of like make it more dramatic or
Oh,
whatever.
this is
So
awesome.
what's that?
Dragon Ball Talk. I had a toy of a black monster with a beak, one eye, and spikes for hands. No, it had two eyes, and that was the original Hook horror from AD&D. You're describing right there, my friend.
That's a great
I also
monster.
had it.
Yeah. Did you?
The
Oh
Dungeons
yeah,
and Dragons toys were great.
like the toys that were based on the cartoon line.
Yeah,
I had all those. I had the fire elemental. I remember it was cool. War Duke, of course, like Zarak, the half orc assassin. There was a ton of monsters with Boule and owlbears.
yeah.
But yeah, I remember the fire elemental a lot of it. I remember that one was cool.
So Dragon Ball Talk and both Walt are chiming in about Knowles.
Knowles,
Which
regular
one of
Knowles.
them spelled Knowles as the grassy hilly thing.
Oh, okay.
Um, but no, so we had Paige Littman on earlier in the week, last week, on last week on the live
Yeah.
chat, and she was talking about how much she loves Knowles, and whenever she has bandits or skeletons, she's like putting out Knowles and like describing the different types of Knowles as different kinds of whatever. And they're like, why don't you just get those minis? Why do you have so many Knowles? It's like, I like Knowles. I'm like, oh.
I thought you were saying like they're always like Knoll skeletons and Knoll bandits
No,
or
no,
something. Oh,
no.
just
They're
like she
just
just loves Knoll.
she loves Knowles, so all of her minis are Knowles. So instead of
Everything in the
having,
world, everybody in the world is a Knoll except you guys.
yeah,
Yeah, there's quite a few questions. I love the quote. Thanks, Seymour Butts, Nerd Dave 2020. Krull, yeah. Here's another question from BK Dan. Have you guys, either one of us, done a Netheril campaign near the end when the city's found? I'm gonna guess Dave does not even know what that is.
I barely know what it is. That's a fourth edition thing, right? When they had, I think it came out during fourth edition when they
No,
had to come up with.
that was Nentir Vale. Netheril is an ancient, forgotten Faerunian
Yeah,
empire,
but
and
wasn't that other flying cities that all crashed?
yeah,
And
because they had the Mythal, which is like
look,
this.
I read so many Forgotten Realms books. It was ridiculous. I just think it's lame to play there.
Yeah.
Um, do you guys even watch our channel? Like we
Hey,
always talk about.
I like I like official stuff. I'll play anything. Um,
Yeah, most of our stuff is always homebrew.
yeah,
So
I mean it's a mix for me. Like I'd say yeah we're doing Ghost of Saltmarsh, but it's like I set it in my world that it's just another part that they didn't explore, and they're just
was there
adventures.
was there a Dagger Dale adventure or module?
Uh, Funny you should mention that. One of the parts of the thing I thought about renewing was I was like, I'm going to get back with all this extra time. I was like, I'm going to get back to like what it was like when fifth edition first came out, and like sort of like renew my interest in like the core of the game. So I went to the Dungeon Masters Guild and got print on demand of the Ghosts of Dragonspear Castle, which takes place in Daggerdale. I when I was at Gen Con 40, I think
Uh,
it was some landmark thing. I won this, and I lost it. I think it was when my house burned down in California. Uh, didn't
that's
make it
not a thing.
out.
I'm thinking of Dagger Ford. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's where this takes place. And also, one of the starting hooks for Curse of Strahd also takes place in Daggerford, where you're like werewolf hunting. But so this is like from D&D Next, and I ran
Yeah.
this when I got home from Gen Con. It's pretty cool. It's super basic because it's like this was before like the player's handbook came out. But I was like, I'm gonna run this again with my friends, or at least
We
find some adventures in it. It's pretty neat.
my original group that when I first started playing D&D was in Forgotten Realms for the most part. But man, we started Temple of Elemental Evil. We started Tomb of Horrors. Played a little bit of Hamlet.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are all
Uh,
Greyhawk.
what's that?
Those are all Greyhawk.
Yeah, I just meant official
Yeah.
adventures.
Oh,
We
right,
were
right.
still playing in Forgotten
Yeah.
Realms.
So
Uh,
you never even like just grab something to use like I'll use this dungeon in a game or
I
anything.
owned it all.
No, no,
Like I
now.
owned the original Greyhawk box set, and I
Yeah.
owned
But now
the
you don't
Forgotten
never do
Realm,
that.
different Forgotten Realms. Dude, I love the. Come on, I just came into my adolescence, and what was it? Queen of the Spiders came out when the
Yeah, yeah.
dungeons were super
The
thick.
Demon Web Pits, or Queen of the Demon Web Pits, I believe is
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Like that could have been like an '80s poster.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
it probably was.
um but yeah, I mean I meant like these days, like you don't know I'll read the stuff aloud. I have my DM voice because it's like, well, I know it's just cheesy read aloud text, so it's like you have done this and now you've gone down the road and you're at the haunted mansion. What do you do? Like I just ham it up. It relieves a lot of anxiety because after winging so many games, like when my friends are like, hey, you want to play D&D? It's like, yeah, sure. I'll just grab like Yawning Portal. I'm like, okay, there's a sunken citadel and there's some magic apples and you're at the dungeon entrance and what do you do? I mean, like that's super easy to just do that. Like it requires zero prep. It's like I'll just read what it says. You tell me what you do, and we'll go from there.
So I always felt like it required more prep. I feel
That's
like
what
I'm
everybody.
supposed to read it all and have it planned
Okay,
out and change stuff.
if you want to understand the NPC motivations and know sort of like what to expect if they go zig or zag, and you want to like stick to the basic narrative of the thing, yeah, you should read adventures cover to cover and maybe make some notes for yourself. To me, it's just like I don't know, it's just something to do. I mean, we just like playing D&D, and they just make the players make their own stories. Like that's way more interesting than the story. I mean, you know how people say like professional wrestling is a soap opera, right? And it's like, and the trappings of it are the ring. Well, it's like D&D's that
It's
too, and the
actually an essential
trappings are
service,
just.
but
But I mean, like D&D's like that too, except the trappings are the dungeon. It's like, I mean,
yeah.
how many people, feel like, oh yeah, like we stopped Tesseract thing, and It's like, no, you remember all the personal stuff you did along the way, the shenanigans, and so that's just the setting. That's just what they do between telling the character's story of how like they overcame the death curse or didn't or whatever they did or just lived their life in this fantasy world. I mean,
We have a juicy question that just came in
ooh, juicy question. Okay.
from Relic. I have a I have a player. We just ended a session in 20 minutes ago going through a nightmare of Pallor Church politics. Any ideas for an easy out I could give him that won't get them killed? I think we need more details.
Well, I would say two things that often go overlooked, and Ted just reminded me when I wrote an article about it the other day. Like, you can just ask if you want to just if you get to some point you don't know what to do, whether you're crunched for time or you just painted yourself into a corner, use player agency to your advantage. Just say like, well, what do you think would have happened? What like if you feel like they're in this point where like they're going to like there's no way logically that they wouldn't get out of this without being killed, and you don't want that to happen, then just narrate the story with them. Like he said, because he was saying about the RPG craze, like I realized I was running out of time, so I just asked them like, how would you have gone from here to here, to get to the point that they needed to go. So just ask them, like narrate
so
it. You don't have to
so
role
I
play
would
every
also
second.
say I'd also say if this is a cleric of Pallor or a servant of Pallor, why not have Pallor tell him he needs him someplace else for whatever reason? There's no, sometimes it's mysterious the way gods work and
Yeah.
what they want from you. If you want them out of there, and they're kind of hell bent on being there, and it's a really bad situation, you could give them a vision or something,
Yeah.
or have an NPC, try and tell them they're needed someplace else, or they need to go find someone in order to fix this problem or fix a MacGuffin, right?
Yeah.
Come up with a MacGuffin, whether the god or an NPC tells them that they need it, but send them off for that.
And I mean, I would be hesitant to like rob the player agency. I mean, you might want to like discuss with them, but like, if they're in for it too, I mean, they're gods. They could literally just like pluck you, physically or metaphysically from where you are, and just like now you're here. I mean, a giant
Yeah, well, I
hand could
mean
literally
that
come
that is
down and
definitely a way you can do it as well.
yeah.
It's more ham fisted, and I've definitely done it in games.
Yeah.
But I also look at
Sometimes that
things like
stuff's cool, like even when it's ham-fisted because it's so dramatic. Players often are like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" And then you're like, "Now what do you do?" And it's like, "Whoo, got myself out of that one." And you just pass the ball to them. Like, what do you do now?
I've also heard accusations of that being railroady, but I don't agree that it is, because life is nothing. Life is like that. Like things just happen to you, and then you react and respond to decide what you're going to do with it.
Hmm.
Sometimes shit is just out of your control, and a car will t-bone you,
Yeah.
right? And now you don't have a car, and you might be banged up. You didn't get a say in it because that's the way life works. And sometimes in a medieval fantasy game, the god will literally pick your ass up and put you on the other side of the world and not even bother to tell you why. But now it's back to you. What are you going to do? Are you
Yeah.
going to try and get right back to where you were? You find a new adventure. You're going to set down roots where you are now. You do
Hmm.
whatever you want.
Yeah, and there's nuances to that too. I mean, like if I did that with my friends or probably with you guys, I don't think anybody would be like, really, shocked or upset. It's like, okay, well, because you would, it's just interesting. It's like, oh wow, what are we gonna do now? Like in that Saltmarsh game we were talking about, because they were like, oh, I want to do like a desert adventure and this and that. It's like, well, why don't we just do our campaign like that, where when you're done with this, I'll just say like, oh, here's you heard about a rumor of an adventure in a desert. A few weeks, months go by before you get there. You can use your downtime and stuff. And we'll just narrate what happens, and then they're in the desert. Sometimes you get lost in that morass of feeling like, well, I need to play every second of the guy's life, or I'll miss an opportunity to like get something or do something. You know, or it's just like, I don't know. I mean, you guys did too. It's like, oh, a year has passed, or it's like, I don't know, you just didn't do anything that we played in that year. Maybe you can go back and do a flashback tale sometime. That can be fun too.
What do you want to do with your life?
Mhm. Let's see.
Yes, we're aware that it is going out to everyone, non-applicable, but thank you. We decided to open up our patron-only chats during these crazy lockdown quarantine times to give people something to do for an hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome. feel free to ask your questions. And for people that are new around here, just put question in front of it. It makes it so much easier for us to pick them out. Tonight, the topic is renewal, and we're vaguely touching on that amongst other things, as we do.
Yeah.
So, I was thinking about the psionics stuff,
Oh, okay.
and so there's a question I've gotten in the past, and I never really feel particularly inspired.
Okay.
People have asked us if we ever want to do our own role playing game or anything like that, and generally my answer is always kind of like a no.
Hmm.
Uh, but the I've been kind of inspired by the psionics.
Hmm.
I like that mechanic. I almost I'm toying with the idea of if I was to build an RPG around that
Oh,
mechanic,
yeah, yeah, where it like
what
it
it would
goes
look
up
like.
and goes down, and when it's
Yeah.
down, it's actually like a somewhat of a benefit and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. A lot of people are saying it's too much bookkeeping. That's like, is it? I mean, you could just set a die there and like do do do, or just to take it. Didn't seem like it to me. I think it's cool, and I think it's a really elegant way of doing it. So yeah, that sounds intriguing. Sure.
Like so the 7D system kind of uses different dice, like their proficiency dice.
Hmm.
So it would be like kind of like, and then it uses, I think, and then it uses pools. But I like the marrying of that style kind of a little bit, where like say if you have attributes, you would pick, say you use a D4 through D12, and that's kind of your stats. The higher
There,
the die, the better you are at that doing the thing, the more proficient you are.
there is a game like that. At least one. I think Overlight is like that. I know there's other games too. Maybe a Modifius one. It might be.
But I like the idea of the shrinking and expanding die,
Hmm.
that until you kind of like recharge it. I know, like, because we put that video up today, and there was definitely a lot of mixed feelings on the die. Um,
Uh-huh.
I know Robert Aducci, he said he thought it was too swingy, but I just looked at it as like when you start off, you basically can do the thing 4 times a day
Hmm.
minimum, right? So I thought that was kind of cool. And then once it levels up and goes to the D8, well, you went from a minimum of 4 times a day to a minimum of 6 times a day. And it just keeps expanding from there. But that's not even true because of the nature of the dice, right? If you just keep getting lucky, you could keep accessing it forever.
Hmm.
Or if your luck sucks, they are the minimums and they're hard.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really cool. It just seems like an elegant way, like a bridge between a new like mechanical system in the game and uh like close enough to the way everything else sort of works. I don't know if that makes sense because nothing really does that, but I don't know. It just I like it,
But
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 yeah,
yeah, but then it makes it, at least it makes it kind of feel like Silence is different, right? It
yeah,
finally feels different,
right, but not
even though
too
some of the effects are
crazily
still kind of
different.
magic.
Yeah. So well, here's a question then. So you seem like you enjoyed you know not only like how they implemented that for Sanix, but like sort of the way the dice works. So what kind of stories do you think a game based around that would tell? Like what like if all the characters in the whole system was based around that, like what do you think that would play? How do you think that would play out? Like in the kind of the stories you
What kind of
tell?
story are you trying to tell?
Yeah,
I
like
don't know. I
what would the
haven't gotten that
characters
far.
be? Yeah,
I haven't
okay. I
gotten
was
that
just
far. I just
curious.
started
Sure.
thinking about it today.
Yeah, sure. I was just curious if that had crossed your mind. That's usually what I think about with other games. Like when people are like, why don't you, like X fantasy game is cool. It's like, I mean, if you're fighting, things to rise in power and get treasure along the way, it's like, well, you know, that's what D&D is.
But I do like it in the sense that it's like I could see building a really easy system off of it,
Hmm.
because
It's
most of
easy
what
to
you have to know,
understand that.
did you roll the maximum or
Right.
the minimum on the
Yeah.
die? And like the idea that rolling a 1 could still be a fumble,
Hmm.
but it gives you back your die, right? So a good thing happens on your fumble,
Hmm.
but your crit is rolling max, but it also like a bad thing happens because your die goes down.
Yeah. And then, I mean, boy, in a system like that, you could have like ultra powerful abilities where it's like your die explodes now and stuff, or it could explode both ways too, like if you get a low or the high. I don't know.
It splits in half.
Yeah,
You get two D4s if you have a
yeah.
D8 or two D3s.
Well, I guess as far as like my question to you earlier, would you like what kind of you sort of feel the same way about like fantasy games. You're like, I mean, if you want to play fantasy, you might as well just play the thing that you intimately know, right? Because it's like it's all
Yeah, I
sort of
wouldn't
the
do. I
same.
wouldn't build a fantasy game
And I know
because
you
I
don't
just
like games with like where you're playing, kids or anything. What kind of game would you like to explore? Like a modern game, a supers game, one of those kitschy niche games like Honey Heist, or what's the one where you play like people at work, and you're like, it's like American Psycho or whatever, where you're like climbing the corporate ladder or something like that's the whole game. I think it's a
we.
is
You
that a
know
Craig
what?
Campbell game? Is
We
that one of
played a
his games?
spy game like that.
Yeah, was that a Craig Campbell game? The
Hmm.
Nerdburger, is that who did that? It was something about like you're just like ruthlessly climbing the corporate ladder, sort
He
of thing.
does have a game like that,
Yeah,
but
I think it might have been.
but that's not the one that I played.
Oh,
So like, James and Arcaso ran it for us at PAX Unplugged one year.
mm-hmm.
I think it was. I think it was Unplugged. They all start to blend together after a while.
Yeah, right. I know when you were
um,
talking to Brian Stillman today, and you were talking about the Guy of the Beholder premiere. I was like, man, that was 2 years ago, three, in this August.
forever ago.
Yeah, that's a long time. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off. I'm
No
going to catch
worries.
up
So
with the
Brian
coach.
Smith has a question. How about renewal of memberships to Thieves Guilds or something maybe against your will? I mean, like what we were talking about with the Paladin, you could do it for anything. Well, in the games I've played in, if you played a thief or a rogue, it was a thief.
Yeah,
You played a thief
that's
and you
right.
showed up into a new town or new city and you started doing thief things, someone was going to come up and talk to you.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you that Ryan, that makes me think of like, one of my favorite things in games. And the older I get, the more this happens, and like playing with other, just people that are just have more life experiences. Is like those kind of real worldy things are a lot of fun to explore in a fantasy setting, right? Where it's just like, you're basically in a union, right? It's like, I got to pay my dues and stuff. You got to
Yeah.
go to the meeting or whatever. Or, I mean,
Well,
there's like stuff you got to do,
it's like
So
the old school union now too, though. Like, because
yeah.
someone will kneecap you.
Well, yeah, they're in an assassin's guild. It's like, what do you think they do when you don't, when you cross them? It's like, oh, or maybe they don't because it's like, hey, we only kill if they pay us. But yeah, I like that kind of stuff. And I've told you about my friends' games a lot. I mean, they love that because sort of like, it's like The Office or whatever, but in D&D. It's like, what would it really be like? The things that you have to do anyway, like that sort of stuff. Renew your maybe you got to take continued education. If you're a wizard, it's like I got to do these, CE courses, or I can't, get upgrade my spell book, or I can't practice magic anymore, or
Yeah,
whatever.
CECs.
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
Or even fighters, like you got to. Well, I guess you're fighting all the time, but even so, there might be fighters guilds. It's just a way for them to make money. It's like, you got to pay us to do this or that. If you want to, if you got to pay to be a mercenary or to be an adventurer or whatever. Somebody always wants to get money off you.
That's the truth.
Whether it's a plutocracy or a magocracy.
Got to pay the armor tax and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sword tax.
Oh man, I am totally going to do that in my friend game with that sort of stuff.
How
They'll
many
love
blades
that.
do you have on you?
Yeah.
That's a weird question. You guys peace bind or something? No, but how many? 3. Okay. He gets out an abacus.
Yeah.
Moving the beads
Mm.
around.
Yeah, if it has the light property, you could. Good news, it only costs 2 silver for that tax.
So William wants to know, how do you make random encounter tables interesting? You don't. It's not my job. I'm the DM. I make stuff happen in the game. My players should make interesting things happen. Now, how can you facilitate that? You can let your players do whatever they want to try and do. If they want to try and talk to the monster, if they want to try and rodeo the monster and round it up, let them try and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And as far as like how do you make them? I don't. I just find. I mean, there is bazillion random tables out there, But you know, a lot of them. And one of my favorite examples is right in the DMG. I don't remember page or anything, but like one of the things that happens is like 300 feet of chain just like falls from the sky and like just coils up on the ground. It's like that's it. So I mean, just like that. I'm sure you would agree. It's like that could probably lead to an entire campaign of players. Like, where did that come from? Like, what is it? Is it magic? How are we gonna carry it? It's alive. We're gonna take it. And I mean, I could easily eat up 45 minutes of them wondering where'd this chain come from. Can we climb it? And then who knows?
So
Maybe you'll think of something while they're playing. Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you start. Feeding it into the sky and it just goes up to a cloud and the next thing you know you're on a cloud giant's castle or whatever. Who knows? Just run with it, man. It's a fantasy game.
so let's see. Roger says Lucky is often banned by a smart DM. I don't I don't worry about like that stuff. Like powerful abilities don't really scare me as a DM. I was doing one of the coaching sessions with one of the patrons, and they were talking about the artificer, the artillerist, and it was another player in the game, and he was playing in the game. He's like, my Foss life was like useless because of the protective barrier where it just gives temporary hit points every round,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so strong. And I'm just like, as a player, like or as a DM, I would just figure that out really quick and be like, okay, they can handle harder challenges,
Yeah.
and take it from there. If you have players that have lucky, well, again, just make harder challenges, and then the players will use their lucky, and it'll help and makes the whole team work better.
I'll tell you what, you don't even have to make harder challenges. Just make them roll dice more often because I mean, I've played enough games where it's like, I mean, I'm sure you too, where like people use inspiration and they'll laugh about it too. They're like, oh, I used inspiration to like, sew that button on, but and I didn't have it when I needed to hit that Balor or whatever it is, right? Because it's fun. It's like they just want to succeed. Whether it's
Yeah.
like I said, sewing a button on or like slaying the Atropos, before a Tesseract can create a demigod or whatever. Like they'll use
And
it,
then
and you have more chances to roll 20s, and that's what people love, man. If you play for 3 hours and it's like, man, everybody got a crit, that you succeed at use, you're lucky all times, and you got that button sewn on better than anybody evolved. It's the best sewn button, in the multiverse or whatever. They'll have fun, and so will you.
and start introducing more challenges that don't rely on dice. That's the other end of it, right?
Yeah,
Where it's like like you introduce a situation and you go, okay, well, what are you going to do? And they're like, well, can I? And you just go, no, tell me what you're going to do, and tell them to put their dice down, and that begins mattering less. Put puzzles in front of them. Put
mm-hmm.
put challenges that you can't just beat to death.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, like real like challenging situation, and like we were talking about with oaths and everything. I mean, there's so many built-in things that challenge like their character. Like what would you do if and you don't have to like hold them to it and be like you're this oath, you have to do this, but you can gently remind them like, boy, as a paladin of vengeance, it's like, are you sure you want to let this X creature go? Like, remember, that's the thing that killed your family or whatever, or that you
Yeah.
swore an oath to the universe to do this thing. Real quick, I know we're running a long time, but I just saw a cool comment that I want to mention from Brian Smith. Said he really likes the side eye mechanic, and he really thinks the side eye mechanic should work with the bard as a performance thing. Like when you're in the groove, you're getting more powerful. Like, and to your point about making a game, I guess that's sort of the theme of that, right? It's just like if you getting in the groove like that, so you could expand that perspective to like not more than just the bard. That's a cool idea for sure. But like
Yeah.
any just the ability to like get in the zone, right? I mean, what if it was like you're it's a role playing game about being like a pro video game player. It's just like, well, I've
I
been
thought you were going to say
playing.
pro wrestler.
No, it's like I've been playing, Dota for 6 hours straight. I'm in the zone. My dies at the,
Nope,
I got the
it's
D12.
galactic wrestling now.
Yeah,
You convinced me.
yeah. Hey, why not? That would be. That sounds awesome. Are you kidding? Like you could imagine the venues and to work in the crowd and all that stuff. That'd be incredible. That'd be a great game. All kind of like alien wrestlers and grapplers and things. All right,
So
you're here first, folks. Nerdarchy's first RPG is going to be Galactic Wrestling, featuring a
galactic
swingy,
wrestling.
swingy polyhedral die set Maybe we can even make up a new die. It'd be like an nth-sided die.
Yeah, it would have to be because they've done all the numbers, I
Yeah,
think.
it's a Tesseract.
So Brian Smith, would it make sense to give magic items a renewal property too? Like needs to be dipped in blood every D4 days or something. That just made me think of Black Razor.
Yeah.
Because like if I don't remember what the number is, but if you don't feed it a soul, it eats yours.
Hey, you know what? That's cool too. But by that same token, maybe give the players like curses where they got to do good stuff too. Like people always say, "Oh, murder hobos" and or whatever. Give them a powerful sword, and it's like, well, if you don't do an act of kindness every once a day, sure, it's gonna lose its power. That's a great way to like start changing behavior. It's like you don't have to have they're like if it's a really powerful, enticing item, but it's just like, yeah, if you don't, help a grandmother across the street, loses its power. Gotta do it.
The anti-murder
Yeah,
hobo.
there you go, folks. You're welcome, world. I just solved murder hoboism. Powerful item, but they have to be good, or it doesn't work.
That
And then
is
maybe,
beautiful.
that actually, if there was a whole arc, they could go on a quest. So like, I'm gonna beat this thing so I can be the jerk that I really want to be. And then after all that kindness, they'd just be a good person. It's like you unlocked it at your 20th level. It's like, what are you gonna do? And then, hey,
The
maybe
real
they'll.
treasure was within you all
Yes,
along.
exactly.
all the Care Bears come running out and
Yeah,
hug you.
and
Then
then
you just lose it
and
and hack them all
yeah, I was gonna
apart.
say, then you could let the player narrate like, now what happens after 20th level? It's like I am the scourge of the multiverse. I use my unlocked weapon to soak in the blood of innocence. Nerdaki doesn't endorse soaking your weapons in the blood of innocence or any blood. No killing. Don't kill anybody.
So I wonder if everybody out there is getting in a lot of D&D games online now that they're in
I
quarantine
hope
or
so.
locked down.
I'm seeing a lot of people renewing their interest in the hobby and coming back and playing all sorts of games. And even my group, we haven't played in months, and they're like, "Oh, can we like get the group back?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" I'm like, "I've been waiting for you guys, man."
The you know what I saw? I shared it with Professor Bell too. Someone's doing. I think it's a bunch of comic book artists are playing Phase Rip for like a charity or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
it might have even already happened,
Oh,
but it was like super
such a
recent.
cool game. I love that game. It was so
And
much fun jumping into Bill's continuing adventures
and it looked
as
like they were
Nightlife.
actually going to play
Uh,
official heroes.
oh, okay. That's cool. I wonder if they were heroes that they had worked on their book. That'd be kind
Yeah,
of
I
neat.
wonder if that's not the case as well. Um,
That'd be
but
fun.
yeah, it was definitely a cool game. And so and even like today in the live chat when we were talking to Brian Stillman, like I was like, "Hey, have you played any games um with all these artists and stuff that you've
Hmm.
interviewed?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Well, now would probably be a great time to do it."
I'm trying to encourage the other players in my group to run games because they really don't accept my protege who started DMing like 2 weeks after he started playing
Yeah.
ever. But my one friend, I'm like, why don't you run like Honey Heist or something? I'm like, it's got two stats, bear and crime. That's it. Like you're a bear, you got a hat, you got two. I think that's what they are, right? Didn't you play that? But here
I
actually,
played a version of it. I'm a little skeptical, to be honest with you.
yeah.
So I just found the thing. I don't recognize any of these people except for Grimjack. I think is a Twitch streamer,
Yeah. Oh, he.
and I think
Oh. Oh, sorry. Good.
that's the only one that I recognize.
But the rest of the people are like comics professionals.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What was I gonna say? Drat.
I sucked it right out of you.
Yeah.
Take
Wow.
that, Doug.
What were we just talking about? Jeez. Go further.
I
Face
don't know. We're talking
rip and
about Marvel Phase
yeah.
Rip.
Yeah. Oh, the game. Yeah.